All units, engage target. Take him down.
I generated all of this in AI with a tool that is still in beta. Artlist just dropped their brand new AI film studio, and they asked me if I wanted to test it and give you my opinion on whether it holds up to the standard of being one of the most promising tools in the AI filmmaking space right now. I'm gonna walk you through what it does well, where you need to iterate, and in the end I'll tell you whether it is worth your time and money. Quick disclosure, Artlist is sponsoring this video, but as usual, everything I say on this channel is my own honest opinion, so I'll tell you if things are good or bad, no matter if a company is involved or not. Now, first let's talk about what this concept is all about. The idea is making AI video generation feel more like real film production. Everything runs through two stages. First, framing your start images, then directing the video itself. On top of that, the platform gives you the ability to change everything from lighting to the type of camera to specific characters. Now, let's have a look at the tool. Artlist has invested quite heavily into the AI filmmaking space in recent years, and Artlist Studio is their newest creation. It's basically a new interface that is sitting on top of their existing AI toolkit. So you click Studio on the navigation and that brings you to that section. They start off with a quick demo on how it works inside the studio. So let's have a look at that first. Now, what stood out to me is that the UI is really nice and clean. Probably one of the best in the space right now, and while it is still in beta, I think that the direction they're going for looks really promising. Now let's scroll down right here and you'll see one of the demos they made with this World War II pilot.
This is what AI video production looks like.
Let's go.
You can direct every cinematic detail.
Dad!
Production-ready scenes.
And it gives you an idea of how they set it up. First, you create your characters, then you build the locations where you want them to be shown, and then you frame the scene, describe everything you want to happen, and direct your final film. So let's actually try this out. I recommend to start off the workflow with the characters. And as you can see here, the UI feels very similar to a video game, and you can either pull from Artlist's library or build your own character. So let's scroll through here, and I see some of those, they look really cool, these kind of action characters right here. But what I wanted to immediately do is create a character of myself and not just use a generic one. Now, in order to do that, I simply uploaded a bunch of images of myself and selected how many iterations I wanted to create. And as usual with AI, it takes a little bit of trial and error, but to be fair, most of these were fairly accurate. The platform also automatically created different clothing combinations. So for instance, as you can see here, it added a coat or a leather jacket to some of the characters, which I thought was a cool way to give me some inspiration for the movie character that you saw in the intro at the beginning of the video. Now, once you got a character, you generate more angles for the image model to reference later. And if anything is wrong, it is fairly easy to regenerate and fix. For now, I recommend spending a few credits dialing in your characters before you start producing actual scenes. The platform gave me one version of myself with a coat and elegant shoes, and another one with a leather jacket that both had a bit of a villain look. So I saved those two. I went to the character library and I found a few more characters that I think could fit the scene. I also wanted to pick these two FBI agents right here because they just look incredibly cool, and both the Asian female and this Afro-American guy. Now, if you don't like certain details, you can simply modify them. So for example, one of them already had wounds on the face, so I thought that was a little too much. So I simply prompted the platform to remove them, And there you go, I get a much cleaner version of this FBI agent. Now number 2, I really like this gangster character with the purple outfit right here, so I thought I could bring him on board too. Now, what is very cool that you can pick voices for each character, so let's try a few of those. This one sounds really cool.
Here's a sample of my voice. Listen to get a feel for my tone, texture, subtle nuances, and overall sound.
And I think it matches this New York gangster type of vibe. Next are the scenes, and there are plenty of presets to choose from. Now, not all of them suited the action vibe I had going on, but I noticed that quite a few of those sample scenes were based in New York, and that felt like a good fit, so I picked a few. Number 1 right here, that taxi, cool, select that. Number 2, deli or corner store. And number 3, that supermarket row, which I thought could be maybe inside of the deli. I also wanted a generic establishing shot, so I decided to make my own scene by simply prompting, hey, I want a shot of the Brooklyn Bridge from Dumbo. And there you go. The first attempt looked fairly decent. In the next stage, I created a bunch of scenes to build a storyboard as my starting point. Now, first, I selected the villain version of myself, and then Artlist gives you options to pick the AI model for image generation. I generally recommend Nano Banana Pro or GPT Images 2, since those are the flagship models on the market right now. So I used GPT Images 2 for all of my generations in this example, and each image you create costs a few hundred credits. However, I reckon these are very well spent, as they will define the DNA of your video later on, okay? In this stage, you can also select the camera type, which gives you access to those expensive cinema cameras. So for example, you can use an Arri Alexa, which I think costs more than $100,000, and it is usually used only in Hollywood productions, but to be 100% honest, I didn't see that much of a difference between them. So I kept my selection mostly set on Red Raptor, and I also left the camera lens on auto, since I didn't want to go too crazy with too many anamorphic lens flares and whatnot. And at the bottom, it lets you select an angle. So I tried a few bird's eye and low angle shots that looked extremely cool and cinematic. And next to it, you can then choose your shot type, which is your framing. So it is either wide, medium, or close up. And last, you pick the lighting, which defines the time of the day. I kept it mostly natural because I wanted my shots to match one another. Now, I ran a few iterations and added the location. So as I said, I picked a New York taxi, since I pictured myself arriving in this action scene by taxi. And as you can see, it created a bunch of starting shots. But if you like a shot, you define it as your start frame, then you switch to the directing tab, and there you get a few options. So number 1 is called a freeform, and there you can basically say what you want to happen. So for instance, I can type in Eric in New York riding in the backseat of a taxi, and then you can also let the platform enhance the prompt. In my opinion, less is more, and the fewer details, the less room for error. Alternatively, you can switch to structured mode and describe everything: subject, location, what is happening, the composition, the style, the mood, and the sound. And that is probably more useful when you don't start off from a reference image. But as I said, for me, it was a little too much information, and I felt it led to too much variance. So I personally don't really like this mode or recommend it. However, on the top right here, you select your model, and I think Google VO is really decent and priced fairly cheap. But if you have the budget and want the absolute best results, then C-Dance is considered one of the best in the market right now. So I iterated between those two, and at the bottom you can select the duration and what type of motion you want to create. So for instance, whether you want the camera to zoom in or out, or something more exotic like a POV shot, which I thought was a pretty cool feature. And once I had learned all of this, I played around to create a few scenes, and I gotta be honest, my first results weren't always perfect, and I think I know what I did wrong. You see, AI filmmaking takes quite a bit of trial and error, and a lot of my scenes had way too much detail, and that ended up counterproductive when creating with AI. So for example, this corner store right here, like I initially wanted the gangster to walk in and have the camera chase him, but I made this strategic mistake with that scene because there were so many printed signs on the wall that it challenged the AI model a little too much, and it made it almost impossible to have consistency across the scenes. So as you can see here, it tended to mess up the letters on the sign, which made it way too obvious that it was AI generated. So I recommend to keep it fairly generic if possible. If you combine two characters in AI, it tends to deviate a little too far from the original template. And the Artlist platform also gives you a warning message right here. I wanted a shot of a handover of a duffel bag with money with a gangster in the supermarket, and both characters fluctuated way too much for my taste. As you can see here, it made me look like 20 years older, and no way this would have worked for character consistency. I like the concept of the composer, but right now I think AI models tend to struggle with too much information. Less is more, and I'm not convinced longer prompts actually help consistency. Using the expensive models like Seedance, a full movie would need a lot more iterations, and I didn't have neither the time nor the credits for that. So I changed my plans and settled for an action-style movie trailer instead, loosely using these characters, which gave me more creative freedom and, more importantly, room for error. For better consistency, I decided to go for darker scenes since they were a bit more forgiving. And keep in mind, this isn't a fully fleshed out Hollywood trailer. Since I ran both out of time and out of credits, I spent about an afternoon doing all of this, but it gives you an idea what you can do if you bring enough time and credits. Concept-wise, I think the studio is extremely cool, and as these AI models keep on getting better and better, I can absolutely see this becoming an alternative to higher budget productions in the future. If this convinced you and you also want access to the brand new Artlist AI Studio, there are a couple of options. Number one is the AI Starter. It costs only $12 per month with around 12,000 credits included. Number two is the Artlist Max plan, which costs $50 per month. Number three is the dedicated AI Professional plan, which gives you 180,000 credits per month. So that is really good value for money, particularly if you sign up for the annual plan. Because let's be honest, if you want to make longer videos, you'll definitely need the credits. So what's my verdict? I think Artlist Studio has both real potential and a few shortfalls, given that it is still a beta tool. The UI is excellent, character creation is genuinely fun, almost like a video game, and you get access to the top tier image generation models in the market right now. The way they set this up to choose your cameras, angles and everything is a very cool concept, but with the current state of AI image models, I sometimes struggle to make it work right away. Maybe I'm being too picky, or it is my lack of experience making videos only with AI, or maybe it's just part of the game right now. But with the speed that this whole AI space is moving, I can see this absolutely becoming really powerful in a few weeks from now, and a strong alternative over creating explosions yourself and hire an army of actors. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in one of the next videos.